thing. Anyway, Alicia Jefferson, I wrote a book, it's out there on a table titled A Child with Parents in Prison. My mother did 3.5 years in Framingham Women's Prison. I was born and raised here in Boston. I now live in the Midwest in Iowa, so I'm a cornfield girl now. And it's good. My dad, he did a total of 12 years. He was sentenced when I was in the womb, and he was sentenced to Walpole Prison, now Cedar Junction or something, but it was the most notorious prison for violence and things like that. So he had an opportunity to be part of this pilot program for furloughs to try to quash all the violence, and that's how I began to build a relationship with him when I was 9 because of the furlough program. I wrote this book because I met a woman who was 30 or so, not too long ago, and we started talking about health and nutrition and all of this, and we started talking about why we got on the health nut track. And she was saying her dad did so many years in prison. I was like, wow, you know, my dad too, and my mother too, and we just started sharing, and we were like, we need to start a program. And this is in Iowa, Waterloo, Iowa. And I was like, yeah, we should. And so how my mind works, I went home and started developing a program. And you know, that night, and then I'm researching, I read all about Amachi, and you know, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's great, and they're missing this, so I'm gonna do this, and you know how it goes. So, Amachi's great, but y'all know how it goes, right? So, you know, I'm developing this program, and then I said, hold on, I need to share my story before I run out here and like, we need to save the children of incarcerated parents. So I said, let me tell my story, and I started writing, and if you look at the book, it's slim as can be, very simple language, because as I started delving deeper into the research around parental incarceration, you know, it's these thick books or all these different journals, man, and so I felt like a grad student already. So I'm reading all these different journals. I said, look, my grandmother wouldn't have, who took me in when my mother got sentenced, my grandmother wouldn't have sat and read these thick technical books to try to understand what's going on with Alicia's emotional state. So I broke it down in layman's term, pretty much how I speak, and it's grammatical. But I broke it, there's an old English professor over there. So, but I broke it down in layman's terms, and I also offer takeaway points for mentors, caregivers, you know, grandmothers, the aunts, the foster care, parents. What can you do to help this child? You know, try to create that bond through visits, through letter writing, just different things that didn't take place when I was a child. You know, my letter would, and I shared this with Andrea, my letter would sit on my grandmother's bureau for 2 weeks, and I'd watch it. I wouldn't say anything because I didn't want to get the switches, but I'd watch it and like, when is she gonna mail my letter, man? You know, I didn't know the economic situation going on in the house. I just knew I wanted my mother to get that letter before the next event is going on in my life, and this is old news, you know. So things like that you can do, and key, like Jasmine said, self-expression. It's all about self-expression. You know, repression leads to destructive behaviors. When I was 11, I started smoking weed, marijuana. When I was 13, I moved on to sniffing cocaine, you know, and other things. I was always the youngest one with older people around me, so I did what they did. And whatever hit the neighborhood, they tried it, and I was able to try it, and I tried it because I wanted relief from all these emotional issues that I was dealing with, and no one was helping me cope. So self-expression is key. Whether we teach them to journal, whether we teach them to create, collages, whatever we do, we need to help our children who unfortunately have their parents stripped away from them how to express those emotions. It's okay to say, I hate my grandmother, she's not my mother. It wasn't okay when I was 9, 10, you understand, I'm 42 now, but it's okay. That grandmother needs to understand, this child needs to say that. You know, this child is missing their mother, you know, and this child is gonna give hell to the teachers. So my work in Iowa right now, fortunately, I've been able to do a lot of talks with what they call pre-service teachers to try to give them a heads up about what they're gonna encounter in these classrooms. They're gonna encounter, out of 25, 10 of them are gonna have a parent or parents in prison. And I talked to them about the alienation, the shame, the guilt, the repression, and all the different emotional and psychological issues that we as children who don't have our parents in our lives have to try to cope with and have no idea how to do it. So it's a lot of young white girls who have no idea what they're going to encounter when they go into classrooms. And in Iowa, we have a situation now because of meth. A lot of young white girls are being sentenced. Young white mothers are being sentenced because they're allowing their homes to be used as what they call meth labs. So I say, when you're sitting in this classroom, don't just think it's going to be little Ray Ray, as people like to say, little black boy who is the child of an incarcerated parent, but little Hunter, his mother's inside too. It's a lot of Hunters in Iowa. they all think this son's Hunter. So, you know, little Hunter's going to have his mother inside as well. So be prepared, you know, with the tools. And so that's what I tried to offer with my book. Yes, and it's a promotion too. But I try to offer really, you know, tools to help pre-service teachers, mentors, grandmothers, aunts understand what that child is going through. Because unfortunately, my grandmother, I'm sure, and my parents all passed away, mothers, grandparents and such. My grandmother, I'm sure she thought she knew what I was going through because all my cousins were around. I grew up with all of my cousins, a bunch of us, but I was different. I didn't have a mother or a father. Their dad came and went from time to time, those who didn't live with their dad. My father couldn't come time to time. If he was allowed a furlough, he would come one week and, you know, sometimes. I didn't have it. I was different. I didn't feel like any of my cousins. I felt alienated from the neighborhood kids, you know, so we children of incarcerated parents are different from the typical child. And a lot of family members don't understand that because, you know, they knew us all their lives and they think they know what's going on in our little heads, but you really don't. So you need to give them that time or an outlet for expression. That's kind of what I push with Camp Expression and Jasmine. If you need help with that 501c3, however I can help you, I got on the grind and created the program. It's Camp Expression. We'll be kicking off September 10th in Waterloo, Iowa, serving children.